Hi, I'm Mark, and today I need to talk about new allegations against Prime Minister Rishi Sunak. The Conservative Prime Minister in Great Britain is being investigated for a possible conflict of interest. So, British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak actually wanted to start the week with positive news. An initiative aims to enable pupils to learn mathematics faster and better. The widespread belief that it's okay to be bad at the subject has caused Britain to fall behind nationally, he said in a speech. In fact, it seems as if he miscalculated himself because he's being investigated because of a possible conflict of interest. The topic dominated the front pages of the daily newspapers on Tuesday, and the Daily Star asked, "Is Dishy Rishi fishy?" So, is there something fishy about the Premier? The Conservative British government is, with that, not getting out of the negative headlines. The MP's Code of Conduct Compliance Officer has launched an investigation into Sunak. It is about a presumably omitted declaration. As part of his budget plan in March, the Prime Minister announced that he would provide billions in aid to ensure a larger number of childminders. Because his wife Akshata Murthy owns shares in a childcare agency, he's now being accused of not being transparent enough. I talked about this in an earlier video. Eventually, the company would benefit from government policies, and according to experts, if the code of conduct is broken, Sunak will likely face a minor fine, such as the Prime Minister having to apologize in Parliament. The fact that the government has not updated a list intended to give an overview of possible conflicts of interest of ministers for almost a year has caused additional discussions. Because this prevents transparency, the Prime Minister and those he appoints can evade proper scrutiny of the affairs. That was said by Labour MP Angela Rayner on Monday. If Sunak has nothing to hide, he should publish the relevant information before the regional elections in May. Then the citizens could form their own picture, she demanded. The opposition stressed that the fact that the Conservative Party is repeatedly shaken by scandals of this kind undermines the credibility of the Prime Minister, who promised change, integrity, and more honesty and transparency, and he did that at the beginning of his term in office. In fact, the Code of Conduct Compliance Committee is investigating 3 other cases as well. The ex-Tory Matt Hancock, who caused a sensation last year with his participation in the jungle camp, is accused of trying to avert investigations against him by influencing the chairman of the committee. In early April, a Conservative MP was suspended over corruption allegations. Scott Benton had offered his services to alleged gambling investors for money. Investigative reporters from The Times revealed it. But what do the investigations mean for Sunak and the Tory party? For Sunak, this is probably more embarrassing than dangerous. That was said by Tim Bale, a political scientist at Queen Mary University, who told this to the newspaper. What worries the Tories, however, is that neither he nor his party is as squeaky clean as he likes to make it in the public. And moreover, people would be reminded of how prosperous Sunak is. The Prime Minister and Murthy are estimated to have assets equivalent to around 840 million euros. And it's not the first time that doubts have arisen about the integrity of him. In spring 22, it became known that his wife, who holds shares in an Indian tech company, benefited from a special legal status. It is estimated that the UK lost millions in taxes. The investigations hit all the Prime Minister's political weaknesses, said Alan Wagner, a political scientist at King's College London. And it's not the first time. If you've seen my videos in the last years, and since Sunak took over, and even before, we had a lot of incidents also with this Prime Minister. As Boris Johnson, he was fined for the Partygate affair. Then we had the thing with his, what do I call it? With his way that he fancies even short trips with jets and helicopters. We had to talk about his pool, and we don't need to talk about his wealth again. So he doesn't have the same standard for himself as he has for the people in Britain. That's another problem here. He's talking about um, that they have to do with certain amounts of money in the wage disputes and the strikes and so ever. We've seen that, and then he is going completely over the top. Then says we have to save energy. Then he's getting a completely power connection new to his house just to heat his pool, and all those things. And that really makes you ask, how close is he still to the normal public? I mean, people have a lot of mixed feelings about our former Chancellor Angela Merkel. Um, Especially, she received now the highest honors by the federal president this week, and there was a lot of discussion about this as well. But there's one thing, however, out of how much ever I disagreed in some points with Chancellor Merkel during her time in office, and it was 16 years, it was quite some time. Thinking about the serving times of some of the recent prime ministers is nothing to compare to Merkel. And I had a lot of criticism for her, even if I'm in the same party, but that doesn't mean I have to agree with everything. And some of her decisions were completely away from that what I wanted. Talking about nuclear energy, we have the trouble now when they took them all off the grid. And that was a decision I never understood, and I completely disagreed. And even in the refugee crisis, there were some right decisions, but there were a lot of wrong decisions as well. Not letting the people in before somebody gets started here again. Letting them in that situation was okay, but there was neglected that the people have to be integrated into society as well, and there were a lot of mistakes made, not with opening the borders at a certain point in time. But there's one thing I can never say about Angela Merkel, that she was too far away from the everyday life of the citizens. Because she knew, for example, which I doubt Rishi Sunak really does, what anything costs in a supermarket. Because one thing you could see as a regular citizen in Berlin all the time was the Chancellor going grocery shopping herself. And she was doing her shopping herself all the time. And people regularly photographed her doing that, or talked about it when they met her in the supermarket, whatever. So at least she was aware of those things. And I think there's a big difference between Rishi Sunak and Angela Merkel there, no matter where you stand politically. And that's what I mean. If you're a politician, you have to know what's going on in real everyday life. And that's a much bigger problem in the UK than in other places. The USA will be quite the same, I must say, because of the money you need to go into any election. In Germany, that works differently. If you want to be a candidate, you don't have to bring millions to do that. And in the UK and the elite system there, looking at many members of parliament, there is a real danger of them all losing grip from the everyday reality of the people. And yet another scandal now will not help Sunak gain ground on Labour. He gained ground with managing to get the Windsor Framework agreed with the EU to solve, or to try to solve, the issues with Northern Ireland and especially the DUP and not having a regional government there. But there he gained ground on Labour. But this scandal will make him lose ground again. I'm quite sure about this. And of course, it doesn't help the Conservatives in Scotland. I've seen the Q&As in Scotland with the new First Minister, where the Tories tried to attack him because of the scandal surrounding the party finances of the SNP. But when you have a prime minister that's investigated at the same time, and many other members of parliament of your own party, it's not easy to attack others. But yeah, we will see how this goes on. And to talk about the Scotland part, by the way, this week on my UK video on the magazine channel. Because there are some more developments in that direction, but I chose to have this as the UK video on my magazine channel this week. So if you want to hear me talk about that, you will have to go there. As I suggest anyway, because every day there's a topic from another region of the world that I find quite interesting, and maybe you want to look over the edge of your own little plate. And I'll see you in my next video. I'll be back.